Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Discipline Therapy Podcast with your two hosts, Suhey Sotomayor, and with me, well, not with me, but in his own house.
Discipline in the building, ladies and gentlemen. We have a special guest today, but before we get into that, we just want to tell everyone a little disclaimer. Viewers' discretion advised. The views of the guest or guests on our show or their opinions are not necessarily the opinions of the Discipline Therapy Podcast. But on that other note, we know you are fiends, and what that means is we have a dose of discipline therapy where everything is completely free. See, if you subscribe, there's no monthly fee. It's free. It's judgment free, sucker free, censor free, sensitive free, and plenty of liberty. God and the ancient ancestors are great, and that means everything else is straight. So go grab your wine, popcorn, or roll a blunt. But the main thing is make sure the kids are in bed. See, we have that soul food conversations. Prepare your mind to be fed. Light one up, inhale life, and exhale strife. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are tuned in to the Discipline Therapy Podcast.
We're
We're here.
here. Well, not together, but soon.
Well, I think we're off because we're not in the same building.
Yes, we have a good show today.
Yeah, we have a special guest today, Mr. David Weiss.
I've been looking at his
Mr.
David Weiss.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So he's a podcaster. It's going to be a very interesting topic of conversation today, but he's been on interviews such as what?
No, he was on another podcast called Talk is Jericho with, you should know this guy. He was a wrestler, Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho. Yes.
They've had some interesting debates. Their podcast is called the Flat Earth Podcast.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
Hey, look who it is. All right. So, Mr. David Weiss, I know you have are you one of three hosts for the Flat Earth Podcast?
Sort of. Well, there used to be Curious Jay. Now there's just Matt. Curious Jay had to step aside for contractual reasons at work, and Matt.
So now, how did you guys come about with this podcast, Flat Earth? Tell us about that.
We had been Flat Earth researchers for a while, and Curious Jay and a couple others. We were kind of always talking. We were always texting each other. And Curious Jay said, "Hey, you know what? We got Flat Earth here. We got Flat Earth Hangouts, Flat Earth YouTubes, everywhere." He goes, "But I'm looking in the podcast world because I do a lot of driving." He goes, "There's no audio podcasts. So let's do one that's audio only." So we started the Flat Earth Podcast.
Interesting. Now,
yeah,
I was trying to read up on you guys, but how did you always believe that the Earth was flat?
No way. You kidding me?
When did this happen? Like, when did you come out and say, you know what, the Earth is flat, and I'm gonna research it?
Yeah. So the way you become a flat earther, nobody wakes up and says, "Hey, I want to be a flat earther," because that comes with ridicule and scorn. And come on, we've known the Earth as a ball for 500 years, right?
Yeah.
Which is not true. We'll get into that. But I was doing a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole about all the other conspiracies going on in the world, and people started sending me flat Earth stuff, saying, "Hey, Dave, have you looked into flat Earth?" And like any smart person, I would just delete those messages and ban those people from our social media because they're stupid, right? I'm not even going to look. But then another researcher who I respect very much said, "Dave, I think the Earth might be flat." And I just was so upset. I was like, "All right, what do you got?" And she sent me a couple videos, Mark Sargent's Clues and some other ones. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to disprove flat Earth. That's it. I've had it. I'm going to prove the globe and disprove flat Earth." And that's how you become a flat earther.
So you were actually going to disprove that it was flat.
Well, I went in with a biased mind, not to, "Hey, let me see what this is." I said, "I'm going to squash this." And that's how you become a flat earther. Because when you seriously look at it, you have no choice but to understand that the heliocentric model is nonsense. Behind me is a shot from a balloon at 120,000 feet. So clear your mind. does that sun look 93 million miles away? Or is it kind of right over there, lighting up the local Earth, right? If you
Mm.
believe you live on the heliocentric model, you believe that you're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, orbiting at 66,600 miles an hour, while chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour, while that entire system's moving sideways at 1.2 million miles per hour.
Okay.
You sense any of that?
S- So
No.
how do you explain like gravity?
So I can explain it better than Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says, I don't know what gravity is. It's a theory, right? They
Yeah.
don't know how it works. They just assume it works. And to make it work, they have to make up dark matter and dark energy that takes up 96% of it. They say 96% of space must be dark matter or dark energy because gravity wouldn't work without it. So they're just making stuff up. They're just making crap up, right? And the problem is there's a thing called the three-body problem. So all of these stars and all these planets going around are staying all on the same plane with the sun. They're not going like this, right? They're going like this, chasing the sun all on this one plane. That's impossible, right? Their gravity is not affecting each other's gravity, right? There's a thing called the three-body problem. NASA can take a supercomputer and they can model it and say, okay, we got this one ball here, it's the sun, it's this big, it has this much gravity, and we got this other ball here, it's smaller, it has less gravity, and they can set it into orbit in this model, and it'll work perfectly. You can predict where the sun will be in a couple hours, in days, in 1,000 years. It knows exactly where it's going to be. It works like a perfect timepiece. But then you add one more body to it, right? In our solar system alone, we have like 80 bodies with all the moons and planets and all sorts of stuff. You add one more body to it, a moon going around the sun, around the Earth, or another planet going around the sun, and the entire model falls apart and never repeats itself,
Hmm.
right?
How do you explain sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you explain how like this when the sun sets and we get darkness and then the sun rises and we get light?
I'll answer that. Let me just finish the gravity.
Mm.
Um, the only true forces in this world are electric and magnetic in nature. The Earth has a measurable, testable, observable
Yeah.
negative charge to it. Not magnetic, negative charge. That negative charge attracts things to it. It has a weak force. It attracts things to it, very weak, just like they say gravity is very weak. And then buoyancy and density sort everything else out. If I had a basketball and a rock and I dropped them over a swimming pool, they'd both fall through the air because they're more dense than the air. The basketball would sit on top of the water because it's less dense. The rock would go to the bottom of the pool, right? Buoyancy and density sort everything else out. Earth establishes a down. This is down for me, and this is down for Australia. Australia doesn't have a down that goes this way. Down is down, up is up, left and right and forward or back are all subjective to the way you're facing, but up is up, down is down, Earth is flat, measurably, testably. So, what was your question? Oh, the sunset. So, it's all due to perspective. So, the sun as the sun moves away, so here's the sun just moving away, and see how it's setting behind this cloud? It's setting from the bottom up. And over distance, these clouds, the atmospheric deck merges with the horizon. And the sun just goes, if this is above your eye line, but in the distance, it looks like it's at your eye level. And as the sun goes away, it just sets. And you think it's going behind the horizon, but it's not. It's just going beyond it.
So how do
So
you figure all this stuff out? Like, have you worked with like scientists and
Here's the thing, they've made us give up our minds. They're like,
Mhm.
well, unless you have a degree, you are not qualified to do any of this.
I
This is
believe that.
common sense,
I
right?
believe that. Yes.
Think about, how do you get an A in school? You memorize the
Memorize stuff.
bullshit and you
Yeah.
regurgitate the bullshit,
Yes.
and then you get to teach the bullshit if you get A's,
Yeah.
right? So that's how the indoctrination system is just turning you into a worker slave, right? So again, figuring this stuff out isn't that hard. It's just, unfortunately, we've been brainwashed before we can talk into believing stuff, right? Here's the questions you guys are going to ask. What about ships over the horizon? What about seasons? What about day and night? What about sunsets? These are all programmed responses because we've been programmed by Bill Nye, the lion guy with the bow tie, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the failed actor. So which one do you want to hit first? Want to hit why can't we see forever? Why can't we see Mount Everest?
Yes.
All right. So here is a spot in Aluja, France, and we're looking out over the ocean, and there's nothing out here. Mount Canigou should be out here, but it's 175 miles away. And at that distance, according to the size of the globe, the top of the mountain should be a mile below the physical horizon. But this isn't really, this is just, there is no physical horizon because it just keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter. But on 2 days a year, when the sun is migrating in between the two tropics, it lines up with the mountain and this observing point, and all of a sudden you can start to see the mountain. Here is Mount Canigou. The very top of this mountain here should be a mile below that line. It should be a mile below that line. But not only can we see the top, we can see the entire mountain range because the sun is backlighting it, right? But when the sun's not there, the light bouncing off that mountain can't push through the atmosphere to your eyes, right? But the sun can push farther. So on these 2 days a year, it lines up, and there it is. There's the whole mountain at 174 miles away. That's impossible, right? Impossible on a ball.
So what's underneath then?
The deepest hole ever dug is the Great Borehole in Russia. It's just short of 8 miles. It's about 7.5 miles. And when they dug that hole, they were using ground penetrating radar to see what they were going to hit next. And they were wrong every step of the way. They're like, all right, there's no more, granite. Oh, they hit more granite. Oh, there's no more water. They hit water, right? So that's equivalent. If the Earth was an apple, you just drilled halfway through the skin of the apple. They were wrong every step of the way, but somehow after they're done drilling, through the skin of the apple, wrong every step of the way, they think that this is they can tell you what's at the center of the Earth. This is pseudoscience. This is a meme that you've been brought up on to believe this. Nobody knows what's below 7.5 miles. Nobody, because nobody's ever been there.
So do you believe that a human being never set foot on the moon?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a hard one for me because I'm a little older than you guys, and I was a kid when the moon landings happened, and that's a big part of our lives. But what if I showed you NASA lying, outright lying? Then you can unwind it to we didn't go to the moon. So let's just destroy NASA for the next five or 10 minutes. Okay. So what is this? I'm going to give you two choices. This is the moon lander with two grown men in diapers in it, meeting up with the orbiter, or this is from the cutting room floor of the South Park. We went to the moon video because the graphics were not good enough. Which one is it? Is it a reject from South Park, or is this actual moon footage?
South Park.
No, this is actual moon footage.
Damn, I thought I was going to get it right.
Well, you can't guess that this is real. This is what NASA shows us for the moon landings. This garbage. This is garbage, right? So people say, well, what about the space station? What about all the guys on the space station? They're faking everything. Here's a woman talking with kids, and watch over, where is it going? Right here. See, they just beam that in. That's not real. This isn't real. She's manipulating a computer graphic. It's called augmented reality. She's manipulating these things. She's looking either in contact lenses that have a screen on them or looking at a television screen beyond the camera, and she's manipulating things in real time. And that's what we see when they're flipping things around. Okay.
I've always had these thoughts running through my head for since I was younger. I've just never dived into it as far as
it's because it comes with a lot of ridicule. I mean, when you start looking into it, here's a guy showing how you drink coffee in space out of a flexible plastic bag. But when he dropped it, so he drank all the coffee, and watch what happens. It gets out of sync. The coffee is CGI, right? he's on a, I think he's on a zero G plane, and they just put the coffee in there and it got out of sync.
Wow. Look at
Okay,
that.
right. Here's Chris Hatfield singing. He's got a guitar. He's singing. This guy's not even in the same room, and he's trying to put the microphone in the right position. They're both in green screen rooms, and watch what he does with the mic. He sticks it right into his neck. Okay, it's inside of his neck. They're using green screens. We never went to the moon. Okay,
Wow.
this is complete and total garbage, right? And sometimes they do it in green screen. Sometimes they do it on a zero G plane. Watch this guy. Look, you can see right through his head. You see that thing on the wall? They faded him in. This is all nonsense.
What are your thoughts on evolution?
Yeah. So I used to believe in evolution. I used to be, an atheist, and never in the history of ever has any animal turned into another animal, other than
Mm.
different dogs breeding with other dogs and creating mutts. No one has. No monkeys are still here. We're not monkeys, right? So so evolution is just part of the reason that they have the globe lie. The globe lie is to literally hide who you are, where you are, what you are, hide your divine powers, hide your true power, um, and make you think that you're insignificant, um, and have no authority.
So do you believe that there are other life forms out in space?
So I don't believe in space, but that was a
Mm.
hard one because extraterrestrials. Oh, come on, there's got to be other extraterrestrials. What if, right? So first, let me describe what the flat Earth is.
Okay.
Many people think that when you look up flat Earth, if you Google flat Earth, you're going to end up with stuff from the Flat Earth Society, which they'll show you. You'll see this: a flat, the Earth is a pancake, and all the other planets are round balls, or they're all pancakes. And then they give you the whole gravity story. Nobody believes this. This is disinformation. This is to confuse your mind. This is to make you think that's what flat Earth is. Flat Earth isn't that at all. Flat Earth is think of what a puddle is. A puddle is where water accumulates in the bottom at the low spot in the land, and the edge of the puddle is just where the land is higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Holds the water in. So a pond is the same thing, just bigger. A lake is bigger. The edge of a lake is not the edge of a pancake, it's the edge of the lake. And then there's land that's higher, right?
Right.
You can get off the lake and walk away from the lake, right? Antarctica is the land that surrounds the world pond, the world lake. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Okay,
Okay.
it holds the world ponds. It literally is the outskirts of the world pond, right? And so if you sail to the edge of Antarctica, to the edge of the world, you're going to end up in Antarctica, and Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat.
So is the Earth predominantly water? And
Well,
if it is, how do you explain like oxygen, the air that we breathe?
so the world, well, there is a lot of water. There was unlimited water. I believe that there's water below our Earth and there's water above our Earth. Okay. I believe space is water. Okay. We
Oh.
live in we live inside this domed world, right? Where we are within a dome, and and in this world pond, and all the luminaries we see in the sky that we call planets and we call stars, they're all luminaries within the Earth system. Okay. So oxygen in the air is just an element that's here, that was created. It was, this world is created. What they want is the controllers of this world that have hijacked this world in the early 1900s. This hijacking didn't happen hundreds or thousands of years ago. It happened in the early 1900s. Everyone on Earth knew the Earth was flat in the early 1900s. Okay, that's not the story that we're taught. So they want us to believe that we're random accidents flying through an infinite universe and a godless universe where an asteroid could take us out at any moment, and we're going to run out of dinosaur Kool-Aid for our cars. And it's all nonsense. It's all to keep us in fear and to make us give and to allow us to give them our power. The analogy I use is from the Matrix. Okay. We are literally feeding their system, right? Look at Neo at the beginning of the Matrix. He's depressed. He's he can't figure it out. He's lost. He's trapped. He's trapped in the Matrix, right? The mind matrix. And then look at Neo at the end of the video, at the end of the movie. He found out who he is, where he is, what he is, and the power of his own
Absolutely.
mind, right?
Absolutely.
So the power of our own mind is what they want. They want us to give them that energy, right? This is all about energy and they can't take it from us. We have to willingly give it to them. So go stay home, shut your business down, wear a face mask, wear 2 face masks, right? And people are like, okay, I'll do it. There's no reason anyone has to do any of this crap. Okay.
What, and now why is that? Why is there no reason for? 'Cause I'm assuming you're speaking on COVID now with the face mask and stuff, right?
I am saying that there's no laws, there's nothing that require us to obey anything they say, especially since it's all a fiction. It's just like these cartoons are like these cartoons. They're affecting your mind. They're affecting decisions you make. The reason the world is in such a screwed up situation right now is because people are lost in space, spinning out of control. They have no idea who they are, where they are, what power they have. They believe in NASA, right? They believe in these guys that train in a pool, have green screens, and can make it look like this. They believe that these guys are in space when they're really in a friggin' swimming pool. They believe in pictures of Saturn that everyone's seen, but when we take the picture off their website, put it in Photoshop, and zoom in on it, it's all just layers put together like by a teenager. I mean, this is horrible, horrible work. People
Wow.
people believe anything. It's truly it's truly amazing, right? You
I believe
believe,
that. Yeah, I
yeah,
believe that. Like it's like if if you're sheep, then you're gonna believe whatever's thrown in front of you, whatever you hear,
right,
whatever other people are hearing. If you're not doing your own research, because it's all propaganda. You know what I'm saying? With creating of these structures and like whatever is music and television and what we've been conditioned to since we were little. This
right.
is conditioning. This is brainwashing.
So
It,
what happens? What do you think will happen if like if somebody goes to the edge of the earth? I know you said that you don't think it's flat, it's more like a pond, right?
yeah.
So what do you think would happen? Like
So in 1957, they came up with the Antarctic Treaty. Nobody is allowed to explore Antarctica, period. No person, no corporation. No one's allowed to go beyond 60 degrees south, which is this pink line, which is still, 1,000 miles away from Antarctica. And no one's allowed to go beyond it. So if you try to, you'll be arrested. Your boat will be sunk. You'll be jailed. One guy was his country gave him permission. He got there. He was stopped at force. He was sent back, and then he was jailed when he got home. Okay, if you want to petition to do some exploration, it'll take you a year in paperwork and permits. It'll cost you between $200,000 and $2 million in application fees, and then they will deny you and they keep the fees.
wow.
Okay, so you can't go there. But what if? What if? Now again, anything beyond the shoreline of Antarctica or above as high as we can get as civilians is speculation. But what is out here? Is Antarctica bigger than all of the oceans of the world? Or maybe Antarctica is just a ring and there's other oceans beyond it. What if there's other lands, extra terra, right? Extra territory, which is extra land, right? And maybe that's where extraterrestrials come from. They come from the lands beyond Antarctica.
Hmm. I've always
Interesting.
said that the ocean has aliens in it.
Well,
Deep in, there are aliens in that ocean.
it's very possible. I mean, the lands beyond Antarctica could be there's many stories of it. You know, There's a story of a ship that went through an opening and then got to this other land. And there was people that had left here in the 1600s that were living out here. It's called the Iron Republic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
this
here's
is all
just another version of what that might look like. We live in this circle. This white ring is Antarctica, right? Our sun circles around in here, right? They have a sun that circles out here, right?
How big are these suns?
They're very small and close within the Earth system. If you look, when we send a balloon up to 120,000 feet, look at that sun. It's not that, it's over there. It's right there. It's small and it's close. And how we see the sun is very interesting. We don't see it. It doesn't act like a physical object. It's more like a reflection. And when you're driving down the road, you know how the moon or the sun will follow you, right?
Mhm.
It's because we all see it in a position relative to our own. It's like a reflection. Like if we were looking at the sun, we're 10 feet apart, and we're looking at the sun in a giant mirror, the sun's over there. I'm going to see the sun in a different spot than you're going to see it in that mirror. It's going to be in two different positions, right?
Mm.
But
It's true.
the heat coming from the sun over there and the heat reflecting off that mirror will be the same. Okay. So maybe the sun that we're seeing is also a reflection from outside of the firmament.
Interesting.
Yeah. Here's one more. These guys are flipping around the space station. Watch, he's going to grab a wire. Watch. He grabs his wire. You see that? These guys are on wires, right? And all sorts of stuff happens. They get tangled in their wires, right? See his wire? He's hanging from a harness right there. And this guy tried to do a backflip and didn't have the stomach muscles to do it. They're literally on wires, right?
Mm.
This guy, there's something going wrong with the rigging, and he grabs the harness right there. See him pulling on the wire,
This
right?
is all fascinating. Do
Right?
you do seminars or like
This is it, man. I'm doing it right now.
oh, I'm just saying, I know that you have the podcast and everything, but have you done anything like outside of this?
I'm doing 20 to 30 interviews a week, talking to people like yourselves, trying to
Mhm.
get the message out there. And people are waking up really fast, right? And the problem is,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are waking up now faster than normal?
yeah, well, you know what? I believe that there was an awakening, a shift in the Earth's energy. In the I draw the line at 2012, right?
Hmm.
And people are literally waking up. And the information is out there. I think the internet kind of got away from them a little bit. So
Oh
the
yeah.
information got out. Like if I knew about the flat Earth in the 1970s, what am I going to do? Me and my friends are like, all right, the Earth is flat. We can't get it in a newspaper. There's no internet. What am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? Right? I'll be just a crazy guy. So now the information, with visuals and everything, are so strong that it's tough. It was tough to stop it, but now they're trying to stop it. If you Google flat Earth, you're going to end up with propaganda. You're going to end up, with top 10 reasons we know the Earth is a ball, and it's all the same stuff. Aristophanes, sticks and shadows, day and night, seasons, sunsets, and all of that stuff is explained away if you take the time to look. But most people, you could lead a man to flat water, but you can't make them think critically about the shape of the Earth.
Do you believe
Mhm.
time is non-existent?
Um, Time is interesting.
Cause,
We're
cause I
here.
only say that. Sorry to cut you off. I only say that because we get daylight savings time twice a year. It goes forward, then it goes back, and I look at it like it's like a hamster on a wheel. It's
Let me
moving, but it's not going anywhere.
let me let me explain what that is. It goes around once every 24 hours. Okay, they gave us clocks, but they made the clocks go around twice a day, maybe to confuse us, right? But the sun, wherever the sun is, it's noon, and as you see, it's gaining on the moon. Right now, we're going to go into a new moon right there, and the sun will lap the moon once every 28 days. Okay. And so the sun keeps track of the hours and the days. The moon keeps track, with its position and its phases with the weeks and the months. Right.
Oh.
And then if I slow it down, I turn on the stars. The stars are spinning slightly faster than the sun. Okay. So the stars keep track of the seasons and the years. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a perfect clock. And the way it works is at the center of the earth is the North Pole, and south is every direction away from the center. East and west are circles around the center, right? So you can go east from New York and go all the way around, dead reckon east, and guess what? You came back to New York. And people say they went around a ball, but you didn't. You just went around the lake. Okay, that's it. What you can't do on a flat Earth is you can't go from Santiago, Chile, south and pop up over in Australia. You can't do that, but nobody's ever done it. So I'll jump out of here and I'll show you something else. But every day there's a featured video. And what I tell people is I have a challenge for people that think flat Earth is crazy. Watch the video every day for 2 weeks. And then at the end of that, if you still think the Earth is a globe, send me one proof and I'll give you a Bitcoin or 100 ounces of silver.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but before you do that, you have to hit the question mark and up come all the questions that you're going to ask. Like, what about gravity? What about ships over the horizon? Or, why the lie? And if you hit why the lie or any one of them, up come videos that YouTube won't serve you. These videos are hidden, and you'll just get propaganda when you do that. Also, there's all sorts of other resources on here, playlists in different languages. There's a whole bunch of other stuff.
And this is on your podcast?
No, this is just my app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. You can go in, you can customize the background. You can put any background you want on here, or you can even select your own. Like if I select, I had a nice picture. Here we go. I'll select this picture here, and I say choose, and bam, I got a different background. You can do whatever you want. So it's kind of cool, and that's it. So that's the app. And if you want to learn about flat Earth, that's the way to learn about it.
Okay, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that app?
So when I would be explaining flat Earth to people would be like, what do you mean? So I made I just wanted a model on my phone, so I made a test flight app, and everyone I showed it to, they're like, oh, that's how it works. So then I started making it better. Then I decided to publish it, and then I actually quit my job and I do this full time because the app is able to support me, and this message is the most important message that we have that needs to get out there.
So the app is called Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Right. If you're watching on a computer, just point your camera there or just search Flat Earth Clock. On Android, you have to have 8.0 or higher, and iPhone, you have to have an iPhone 6 or better to get it to work. It's $2.99. It's by Blue Water Bay. There's a knockoff by a bunch of trolls. On Android, it's free. If you get it, don't send me an email telling me my app sucks because it's not my app. What other questions? You must have more questions, EL.
I have.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know how. So like your friends and family, let's say, have you gotten everyone to like on board and with your like what you think, or do you still get pushback on it?
Well, my wife, she's on board. My partner Paige, she totally gets it. My kids are close to, they're right around 30 years old. They get it, but they just they're living their life. They don't live here, so they get it. My brother and sister are so far asleep that I don't even know if they know if I'm a flat earther. There's just nothing we're ever really going to discuss, and that's fine. They're having their journey. I'm having mine.
Exactly. That's a good way of looking at it.
It was tough, at the beginning, but now, my childhood friends are coming around because I post publicly. I'm out there. And so I'm getting messages like, oh my God, Dave, I thought you were crazy. I've been into conspiracies for years.
Yeah.
Talking about the spraying of our skies, the Federal Reserve, and everyone said, you're crazy. But now everything I've said has come true. They admit it. They admit they're spraying the sky to warm, to cool off the earth and whatever.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, how do you deal with those people who are asleep? You know what I'm saying? The people who they feel, oh, you're crazy, or that's not true.
Well, what I say is, you're welcome to have a discussion with me. You're welcome to show me one globe proof, or I really won't engage with them. If they want to engage with me, I'm like, okay, if they go 5 minutes, I was like, not interested.
Yeah.
Right. Because I could tell you that I went to medical school for 3.5 years and I quit because I didn't think allopathic medicine was good, and I took a more homeopathic rate. So you can either choose to believe that and you're done. You have nothing else to do. Let's go smoke a joint, drink a beer. It doesn't matter, right? Take a nap. But if you want, like, wait a minute, let me check to see where he went to school. It's going to take you a week to figure out that I never went to medical school, right? Belief is easy. It takes zero effort, zero mind power, zero time. All right, I believe, right? And people were indoctrinated into this ball system before we could even talk.
Yeah, that's true. We just believe what we're told from little.
So what do you like, do you have any final thoughts about this? You know, on our show we like to do final. Go ahead.
Just one more thing. I did go on to the last post that you guys did on YouTube, and I wanted to ask. We usually ask our guests, what have you gotten out of the COVID-19? This, the pandemic. What have you learned from it? What have you discovered about yourself? How have you been with it? And do you believe? What are your thoughts on the COVID vaccine and the virus?
I believe it's as big as a scam as the globe. It's unbelievable. Now, there are people that die. Yeah, the flu kills people every year. You look at the number of people that died in 2000, the last couple of years, and this year, it's the same number every year. They just moved everyone into the COVID column. What they do here is insane. Like, if you're in an old age home and you get tested positive, but you're not sick, and then you die of cancer, of kidney disease, of whatever, it's a COVID death. But if you get the vaccine and you die, even though you tested positive, it's a natural death.
Really? I did not know that.
There's an old age home in New York here, about 200 people in it. There's a number of cases. No one's sick. People, they tested positive because the test is complete nonsense. And then the 80% of them got the vaccine, and within 1 week, 24 people died.
Do you think they manipulated the numbers? Like the numbers
they're totally,
weren't real?
it's all manipulated. The hospitals they say are overrunning are empty. The hospitals are empty. Nurses are laid off. They're doing TikTok dances, right? It's insanity what's going on. It's insanity.
As far as the nurses and the hospital, because I work in a hospital and I work with nurses.
Yeah.
That I can tell you that they're putting in a lot of effort. Now, my theory, my thoughts on it, obviously was a man-made thing. 100%.
Yeah.
But whatever that is out there, it's not just a hoax, because I've seen
there is a bad flu that kills people, a coronavirus. Okay, there was there was a coronavirus years ago that not that long ago, but Covid-19 or whatever. Now, the nurses that are working in the respiratory units, they're working their asses off. Don't get me wrong there, right? But hospitals that say they're overrunning with COVID patients, it's because they only allocated 6 beds to COVID patients and they have 8 patients. So they're overrun.
Yes, right? Yes.
Yeah, there's so much manipulation going on. I mean, how many
manipulation, exactly, and how you word things.
I'm going to answer a question for you. I'm going to ask you a question. The answer is 0. How many people in your phone book have died from COVID?
Have died from COVID? 0.
0.
Yeah.
If it was a pandemic, we'd all know somebody. We'd all have people dying. There are people.
I do.
Right. You check out funeral homes. They say business is the same or less than every other year in the past. Go by graveyards. How come there's not grave after grave after grave? Nothing has changed.
But what about the bodies that were in the freezers and in the
that's
hospital?
Not true. Did you see them? There were trucks. Wait, so your mother, uncle, sister, whatever, dies of COVID in the hospital. You're going to let them freeze her and throw her in a truck? None of that's true. It's all nonsense. It's all mind. They're all controlling your mind with nonsense. I mean, the news, this is, here, let's talk about this before we'll end on this. And this is great. We got a little time. So I said earlier that in the early 1900s, everyone knew the earth was flat. I interviewed a woman, 102 years old, in February of 2020. And I was interviewing her about something different, about the World's Fairs. And she had such a great memory. I asked her, what school she went to when she was elementary school. She knew the teachers, the name, the street, the kids, in her class. And I said, what did they teach you about the earth in science? And she looks at me, she goes, they taught me the earth was flat, right? This is in Connecticut in the 1920s. We found another woman from Croatia who said in the 1930s, all of the schools in Croatia taught flat earth, right? So then we started looking at microfilm newspaper articles. We found articles about teachers being persecuted and possibly jailed for teaching heliocentrism, right? The globe model, trying to introduce it into the school system, right? So this whole idea of the Greeks figured it out 500 years ago, there's no proof of that. That was entered into the school textbooks in the 1980s, the story of Aristophanes. Excuse me. And so the takeover happened in the early 1900s. That's when whoever it is, whoever they are, hijacked this world and put our minds into the matrix.
I
In
believe that.
1918, the Spanish flu supposedly was happening.
Yep,
1918, 1920.
Yep.
So all the boys were coming back from the war, and they were all sick from being at these foreign lands. Well, do you get sick from being at foreign lands, or do you get sick when you're injected with 100 vaccines, right? So they all came back, and they guilted everyone. Instead of saying, you better get the vaccine so you don't kill grandma, they said, you better get the vaccine so you don't kill our war heroes. And everybody got vaccinated. Everyone in 1918, 1920 was wearing masks. Everyone, go back and look at the pictures. They're all wearing masks. They're all getting vaccinated. And there was a massive die-off of the population back then, right? Nothing new under the sun here.
That's
It was
true.
overly populated around then too. I read
Well,
somewhere that around that time it was like 2 billion people, and now they count like 7.6
the
billion.
world population is probably no more than 1 billion people right now. They're lying about everything.
Wow. So where can we, like Mr. Yield Discipline said, what are your final thoughts on this, and where can we tell the viewers to go and watch and log on and link up with?
So if you Google flat Earth, you're going to end up at the Flat Earth Society. You're going to end up with, images like this. This is not what the flat Earth is. Nobody believes that. This is to control your mind, right? So the best way is literally to get my app, or if you don't want to get the app, that's fine. Just listen to the podcast, the Flat Earth Podcast, on all podcast players. But this will answer all of your questions. This will, the daily video every day. People they say they get up in the morning, and during breakfast they watch their video of the day, and it gives them more information. And every day they build upon that information. So it's a lot of fun. And then also my YouTube channel, which is, you can go there. I have lots of short videos. It's just the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. So it's DITRH. And I'll send you guys links to all of this, and you can share it in the show notes. And what I say is, just don't close your mind, but don't believe anything I'm saying. You can see. I'm pointing to all these doors. I just pointed to 100 doors. And
Do your research.
There's more on the other side. There's so much more. We are these incredible, powerful beings. We are Neo at the end of the matrix, not at the beginning. So you can stay at the beginning and live in your matrix, or you can wake up and see your world before it becomes, burnt, and destroyed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, we want to thank you, man. Like you blew my mind.
Yeah,
I'm always
I
trying to
was
learn
ready.
different things. And I would, like she was saying, I was ready to just be a sponge.
Yeah. I can see it. Now you got some thinking to do.
Yeah.
And just keep. If you come up with something like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. It's not because it doesn't work. It's because you don't see the other answer. You don't see the other side. Like like
Absolutely.
sunsets over the ocean prove that the Earth is flat. Well, no, they don't. It's all due to perspective. Okay. And in the app, just click, what about sunsets? Where does the sun go? And it shows you how it works, right? I'll show you one quick video. This is a little experiment we did where this is the candle flame is the sun and it's rising, right? So you think that somebody's just lifting it up above a table, but it's not. This is all done on a flat plane, and this lens we're looking through is this lens right here. It represents the atmosphere. So it'll show in a second. As this little thing wheels away with the sun, you see the sun setting, right? There'll be a better shot of it in a second, because the atmosphere acts like a magnifying lens with the moisture in it. And the sun will appear to set when you have moisture in the air. What happens when there's no moisture in the air? So here it is again, right? As it moves away, watch the sun up here. It's literally just this cart going away, and it sets below the horizon. Pretty cool, right?
Very
What
cool.
happens when there's no moisture in the atmosphere? Here's over a desert plain in Africa. The sun just sits there, and it just starts going away and getting smaller and smaller. It should be going down, but it's clearly going away. And that's because the atmosphere isn't magnifying it and pushing it into a apparent horizon. It's just going away. It's going around and coming back.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
That is.
so much.
That really is.
Yeah.
I was ready to give some fights too.
Yeah.
Sue, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I thought this was a very interesting topic. I'm going to definitely dive in and do my research because you really brought up some good points. And thank you for coming on the show.
Yes.
All right.
you.
Thanks for having me, and keep researching because there's an amazing world out there. You'll never be bored again once you see this.
Hopefully we'll get you back on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you were tuned in to the Discipline Therapy Podcast. Peace.